going on, everybody? I'm Josh with Survive First Contact. Had some requests on Instagram to go over some go bag considerations. Now, go bag is kind of like a really generalized term that gets thrown around the prep and the survival in the military world. However, the big thing to take away from any of your pack outs, whether it's from your vehicle, which, let's face it, should just be the largest version of your go bag, it can carry the most stuff, down to other more long-term bags like your 60, 75 liter bags or military rucksacks, and then down to smaller bags like 40 liters and below, let's say. So for here, this segment, we're going to talk about bags for your vehicles, kind of like the smallest option, what I think is the smallest option to be able to grab and go or to do like day pack kind of activities. And overall, the thing to remember with bags or vehicles or whatever your survival setting is, it's all about a couple things. It's about scale. What size of thing are you carrying stuff in? So is it your vehicle? Is the thing stored in your house? Is it a large rucksack? Or is it like a small day bag or even just one single pouch? So what is the scale you have available to be able to carry all of your gear? Some of the other things include the environment, the terrain and the weather. What is that going to be like? A winter pack out, especially in something like military or mountaineering or austere camping, what have you, a winter pack out is going to be a lot different and quite a bit more heavy than a summer pack out. So realizing that the terrain and the weather that you're going to be working in is going to determine how much you're going to carry and how much space you need. And the other part of that is how many people are you trying to sustain and for how long? I know this is a lot of MET-TC kind of stuff, mission enemy time trained troops and civilian considerations, which just basically means, in military speak, it's mission dependent, the amount of stuff you're carrying, how and why. But today we're going to kind of go over a little bit of a lighter loadout. So what I have here is a bag commonly used on like day trips and when I'm out hiking, walking the dogs, just to get conditioning in. This is a Gregory pack, Stout 35. These run around 150 bucks, depending on where you get them from. I like Gregory bags. I feel like they're a little heavier duty made than some of the other companies. No relationship with Gregory. I just like their stuff. But for this bag specifically, I like that your padded waist pad that has some decently heavy duty buckles. You have an adjustable channel to fit the size of your torso, which is pretty important. Once you start carrying more than 10-15 pounds, how that weight rides is going to be a big deal, and it's going to determine how far and how fast you can move. And if you're going to get, super sore, things going to rub you the wrong way, sizing the bag's appropriate. But anyways, so kind of like something like a day pack. This Gregory Stout 35 I think works really nicely. It has a section on the bottom that you can open from the bottom, so things like you're storing a sleep system or something down there, you can open from the bottom and not the top, not have to dig through all of your stuff. It's got a channel on the front here for a quick stuff sack. Right now all I have in there is the rain cover that comes with this bag. I just have that stuff there, and if the weather is looking like it's going to be bad when I'm rolling, I'll stuff my rain jacket in here for quick access. More on that. Got like these drink pouches on both sides to get your water bottles, canteens, what have you. A little bit thinner, so you may not get a full, military 1-quart canteen in there. It'd be tight, but you could still probably do it. Main compartment's fairly roomy. I don't know if you can see that very well. It's fairly roomy, but you have an additional section back here, a little divider for the back, so you can slide things that are thinner, at least have some division in there. And then your top flap, you got a section right here that opens from the back side, and then from the top, open from the front side so you can get out stuff quickly. So that's the bag, Gregory Stout 35. I feel like this is a good starting point size, short of just having a larger pouch to be able to sustain you. I feel like this is probably the smallest size you're going to want. And like I said, mind you, terrain, weather, what you're going to do and how long you're going to do it for, and how many people you're trying to sustain. This kind of bag, even if it's stuffed full, you're probably only going to be able to sustain one person, and that's going to be a give or take situation. But you have to plan for how many people you're going to sustain out of bags, and then decide, well, do you need to carry a larger bag yourself, or does every member of your family, your tribe, whoever they are, have to carry a bag on their own to be able to sustain themselves? So more on that. Here's kind of the layout of what I carry in this bag. This all together weighs less than 25 pounds. Quite a bit less, probably closer to 15 pounds last time I checked all of this. But I really like and subscribe to Dave Canterbury's method from Pathfinder Survival. and he goes by the C's, the letter C, of survival. And I think that's a really good starting point for any of your survival loadouts. So the C's, not all of them, but the ones I specifically think you need to hit on are a cutting device, like a knife, a saw, an axe, whatever, a combustion device, and we'll go over some of those that I have, cordage, like 550 cord, rope, bungee cords, a container, so something to carry food, carry water, and possibly cook, purify, do what you have to do in that. Cover. Now cover, specifically cover for your body, so it can be something worn, like a jacket, or it could be something like a blanket, a sleep system, a poncho, or maybe even just an emergency blanket, like a foil or mylar blanket. And then the last portions I like to go over are communication devices for the other C. And by communication at this rate, outside of your cell phone, which you're probably going to have on you, I'd say communication goes more into signaling. So being able to signal where you are, signal help, signal search and rescue, mark your position, whatever you have. Medical is the other portion. It's not in the C's, but I'm big into being prepared for medical emergencies, trauma emergencies that you need to be able to handle on the spot, because those traumatic injury type emergencies, you're only going to have within a few minutes or maybe a few hours to be able to initially deal with something and then move out of the area, get to help, get to first response, all that jazz. And then otherwise, your basic sustainment, so food and water. Again, your consumption of food and water is going to depend on how far you're moving, how much you're carrying, and what the weather is like. You're going to burn more calories in a cold weather environment because your body needs those calories to keep heating you. But again, that's all kind of situation dependent. But a good rule of thumb, if you're going to be moving under a load that is, say, more than 30 pounds, and say it's like the summertime, most military organizations suggest that you plan to consume 1 quart of water per hour. Now, that's kind of a heavy assumption that you're going to consume that much, but it's good to be able to plan for that. And know that if you can't carry all that within your plan, you have to deliberately navigate to a water source to procure water. So whether it's out in nature, a stream, a lake, or be able to stop somewhere and buy water, or if it's a society collapse kind of situation, what level of risk are you willing to take to go into some place like a store to procure water, food, snacks to keep yourself going? So it's things like that you have to consider. But going through here, I like to start with my smallest pouch, because remember, like we talked about, all this is about scale. This is just a pouch from Condor. It has a big front flap on here, and this pouch very easily fits my clean canteen 40-ounce water bottle. And in there I also have a metal canteen cup that nests around my water bottle. This is a 40-ounce water bottle from Clean Canteen. So you got my little survival notes written on there. And the big thing about this kind of bottle, this kind of container, whether it be at the bottle or the canteen cup, this is hollow. It's single walled. This is not a vacuum bottle. So it will not keep things hot or cold as long as a vacuum bottle will. But the cool thing about a single walled bottle is you can put your food and water in here and cook with this over a flame and not worry about it exploding with those the pressure gas buildup in something like a vacuum bottle. So something like this Condor pouch with my bottle, with my cup, it covers a bunch of things, right? I have my container in here, my cup nested container, cutting device on the outside, got my little pouch here. This knife in this pack, little pouch here, is from Tops Knives. I love Tops Knives. Use this specific knife during SEER school. See on there, Tops Buck. This is the CSRT, the Combat Search and Rescue Tool. You see on there it has a little a glass breaker and a seatbelt cutter as well, and it's a pretty heavy gauge knife. You're still under 1/4 inch, but still a knife that's heavy enough that you can do some work like chopping and batoning with, versus just a small pocket knife. But again, it's all about scale and how much weight you're willing to carry and how much space you have to carry it. So for this little bottle in this pack here, got my cutting device and my container that I've already showed you. I got my cordage right in the front here, a length of 550 cord to be able to tie up a shelter or use 550 for any other of its innumerable uses. Also within this pouch, within the front section here, I've laid it out basically in a plastic bag that fits right in the front. But we also have additional combustion devices, so multiple, right? Redundancy, 2 is 1, 1 is none. Have multiple ways to be able to accomplish things you need to do. This is a magnesium bar and a striker. This is just your Bic lighter from a gas station. And here is a package of waterproof matches with a little striker paper taped inside the lid. If cannot strike anywhere matches, you need to make sure that you have somewhere to strike them. But anyways, so combustion devices, multiples, matches. These are waterproof, but obviously other types of matches won't work if they get wet. Also got your really simple fix of a lighter and a magnesium bar. Shave some shavings off of there, burns it over 4,000 degrees. Strike that, get your fire going. Be able to do things like cook food, purify water, keep warm. So far we've covered container, cutting devices, combustion devices, cordage. Also in here for water specifically, iodine purification tablets also in the bag that goes in this little pouch. Just ensure that if you're doing things like chemical purification like this, you know your correct quantities. So for this one specifically, it's 2 tablets of iodine per liter of water, or close to a quart per liter of water, around 32 ounces. But it does take half an hour to purify once you add these, and then you need to make sure that if you're filling water with the same container that you're collecting the dirty water in, that I believe the company suggests within 5 minutes of adding this, opening the lid and splashing some of that water with that iodine content along the drinking portion where your mouth is going to touch on that bottle, to make sure that you don't contaminate yourself if you collected your dirty water in the same container that you're going to drink out of. But anyways, there's that. I do carry water filters in my larger bags, but that's for another talk. But again, a couple ways to purify water. You get your boiling from your container, and you get your iodine tablets. Moving on from there, signaling devices or communication. These, because they fold down really easily, this is just a little makeup mirror that I used in sniper school to make sure if I was out in the field and had to reapply face paint or look at myself, I could see it. But a signal mirror, a really great idea. A signaling whistle, and it's also bright orange. Just another way to signal for help. If you're not in a military type scenario and you're in a civilian scenario, whether you are lost and need help, and you are on something like a search and rescue party for other people, having ways to signal is a big deal. From there, this kind of fits into medical, but this is just all going in this little pouch that I showed you. A drip drop dehydration powder, electrolytes, things like magnesium, potassium, sodium, and glucose. Get your electrolytes in. Pounding water in a really hot environment, if you're not getting calories or the appropriate electrolytes, that water is actually diluting the electrolytes in your system. So if you pound water and nothing else, you are actually flushing the electrolytes from your system, and you're going to be dehydrated either way. You're just going to be peeing a lot, basically getting rid of all that water you just took in. And then I have a little bag here. Stuff you can see in there. I have a little compass. And then I have some wire in here, a little wire saw, a little wire you can make snares or traps with or repair things with. There's also a couple of fishing swivels in here. So you attach this to some of your cordage and find you some bait, and you kind of have a tiny mobile fishing kit. So ways to procure food. And I forgot, attached on the outside of my case here, a cat tourniquet. Just be able to address some of those heavy bleeders from an extremity. Now mind you, this is far from a complete medical answer. However, all the things I just talked about fit in this one pouch. Got some medical, got my cutting stuff, got my cordage, got my bag of stuff we just talked through, containers to be able to carry water. So if I don't have any bags and I just have to grab this little guy, I can grab this and move out, and I can still accomplish most of my survival tasks in a very lean way, but I can still accomplish it with just this. The only thing I forgot to mention that is also in here, I have it underneath the canteen cup. I have a space blanket and just a plastic garbage bag. A space blanket, and actually I have one sitting out here, just a Mylar blanket. Be able to maintain your body heat, but also good for signaling. It is reflective. And then a garbage bag just in case you need to waterproof anything. Have a plastic covering for whatever you need. Add to your shelter. I've seen guys, do the homeless guy when they're cold, cut armholes in a garbage bag. It will help keep you warm. The issue is it's going to trap moisture, which in a really cold environment is going to keep you cold longer and potentially to hypothermia if you don't have a way to get dry. So just be aware of that. So that's my tiny pouch. Like I said, this is all about scale. If I don't have any bags and I can only grab one thing, I'm grabbing my little water pouch. But from there, we'll go over the rest of the contents of the bag. So the other C's, cover, right? Whether it's worn or basically constructed piece of cover. This is a Goretex jacket from Patagonia. This stuff's down really small, goes in the bottom of my bag. Good for rainy days, especially good for rainy and cold days, having a Goretex outer. Good thing about Goretex, it breathes. It doesn't breathe well, but it breathes better than something like rubber or plastic. So Goretex is a good one as an external barrier, a worn external barrier. Another one, fleece cap, or this one is actually acrylic and wool blend. Now, for something like this, you know, if you've ever been stranded somewhere or had to sleep outside and it's not in the middle of the summer, in the south here, like in Virginia, temperatures can drop at night. So having something like a hat that is wool or a combination of wool and something else, and I push wool or a combination wool like merino wool, smart wool, what have you, because wool maintains its insulation properties even when it's soaking wet. Other materials like cotton and some other things, other synthetics, they don't do that as well. Wool, like I said, doesn't matter. It maintains most of its insulating properties when it's wet, so having this cap in there to throw on you, maybe you're searching for somebody and someone's injured. If they're injured and they're in shock or they've lost blood, their body's going to be cold, so having this to be able to throw that on them to help keep them warm is huge, and it, like I said, doesn't weigh very much at all. Into more cover things here. This is also at the bottom of the bag. This is just a little pouch that holds a military poncho. I can pull the whole thing out. But being able to construct a shelter, be able to tie up a poncho, tie it to trees or whatever you have around you as overall cover, or just toss it over top of you as you're sitting, you know, just like you would a regular poncho to keep you out of the elements. Moving along here, food and water considerations. Like I said, this is going to be scale of however long you think you're going to be out there, but for my emergency bag here, like I said, weighs less than 20 pounds. I don't mind these emergency rations, you know, just 3,600 calories. If you crunch that out, that's roughly enough for 2 people for a day and overnight in kind of an emergency situation. You're going to be hungry, but you can stretch this. So having this in there just as a baseline of, I know I'm going to have to procure more food and water later because this bag isn't that large and I'm not carrying 10 gallons of water and 3 days worth of food. I still might have space to do that, but not in this case. I don't have that all pre-packed in here. Having something like emergency rations, something that is calorie dense and light to get you and or another person through a little bit of an extended period, like I said, like an overnight or a day. Keep your calories up, you know, keep your mind fresh and clear to be able to think. Power in your brain and your muscles if you have to respond to someone else's emergency or respond to your own and then walk your way out of that emergency. Having something calories available is huge. I just have a couple water bottles in this bag right now. Usually when I go out with this bag, like I said, walking the dogs or for day hikes, the wife and I fill a couple of these clean canteen bottles. I also have them from Pathfinder Survival. They're 32-ounce bottle and corresponding canteen cup that nests. But we'll fill a couple of these, so usually we're going out with 3 or 4 liters of water, even if it's just for a couple hours of walking and hiking around. So we have a water source that we don't have to purify. It's ready to go. Yeah, so that's our water. Medical stuff. Got my trauma first aid kit, my IFAC. These are what I put together on my medical classes, but basically this was covering most things at a minimum in your March triage and treatment algorithm. So you got your tourniquet and a pressure bandage. Let's see here, and a Lay's pressure bandage to address your bleeders, along with some gauze that will assist in the clotting process. That's addressing your bleeders. Some airway maintenance. I got a nasopharyngeal airway tube here and a chest seal. Things, you know, not everything's going to be a gunshot wound that happens out in the world, but say you're hiking, you know, you take a fall and I don't know, you fall onto something and it pierces your chest cavity. Having something like a chest seal, not having more than just a tourniquet with you, is a good idea. Some shears, trauma shears, to cut off clothing. And then for when I give these out to my classes, I got a little space blanket in there. Again, try and prevent shock, keep people's body temperature regulated, and a little smart card on treatment algorithm Smart, in case you forgot. This is all in a little pouch. It said it weighs less than a pound right here. That goes in my bag. And then, kind of like a basic little pharmacy bag for things that you know you have or things that you might have to address. So there's some hydration powder, some drip drops in here. I have some Benadryl tablets. I have written on there my notes for the Benadryl dosage. If you're not going to carry a bottle of something with the instructions, make sure you have the instructions somewhere so you don't over or underdose somebody or yourself. An inhaler for some breathing troubles. I got some goodie powder, some acetaminophen, anti-inflammatory. Some feminine hygiene type products right there. If you're out and about with your wife, your girlfriend, your lady, whoever it is, having that stuff is good just all around. Baby wipes. I'm a big fan of not feeling nasty, not having that monkey butt. So if you have to go to the bathroom or clean yourself up or somebody else up in a situation, having baby wipes. Can't suggest it enough. Well, a couple last things I didn't cover going through there. Signaling, we already talked about the space blanket, but I also have some chem lights, some glow sticks here for signaling, and the famous VS17 panel. Military uses these for things like marking airfields and landing zones. You can buy these, like I said, it's that hazard orange and kind of that pink color, kind of the universal colors for you want something to be seen or an emergency. Having that in there because being able to mark your position for rescue, or being able to mark your position for other people that are coming into your area is a big deal. So having those signaling type things, you can also take a piece of 550 cord and tie it to your chem light and do the rave party, a buzzsaw, spin that around. Someone's going to be able to see that as they're coming up to you. Good ways to signal. Last thing I didn't cover, some navigation stuff. I just have an orienteering compass in here. I do have a military lens-added compass in my kit, like my body armor, my reconnaissance kit, and then my 70-liter blowout bag. We'll talk more about that later. But having a compass and having ways to navigate. Now, what goes into navigation and emergencies, one, above all, if you're an adventurer and you're going out, let someone else know who's not going with you where you're going. Drop them a pin. Smartphones are great nowadays. Drop them a pin of where you are, where you're going. At least verbally tell someone, hey, here's where I'm going. Here's how long I'm going for. If you don't hear from me by this time, and then give a realistic timeline, hey, start looking for me, start calling, start heading that way, start notifying search and rescue, because you're on the time, you're on a clock as soon as survival activities start, and that clock only stops once you're rescued. And to get you between start to finish is only the things you brought with you, and your wits, your knowledge. So having that timeline built in to when search and rescue needs to be spun up, and then how long it's going to take them to find you, all things to consider. In addition to the navigation piece, just having this orienteering compass. If we're going somewhere like a national park, we'll pick up a local map, probably 2 of them in case one gets wet or damaged, and having that map with you and knowing how to navigate, so that a majority of avoiding emergency situations is just not getting lost. Knowing where you are and how long it's going to take you to get out of there, or how long it's going to take someone to respond to you, should determine how much risk you're willing to take in those situations. But that's a whole other talk on risk as well. So that's kind of just a quick down and dirty of some survival items I think that should go in a small bag that's going to weigh under 30 pounds, give or take. Like I said, if you're packing out for a winter bag, you're living in a mostly cold state, or you're planning for winter activities, having things like heavier jackets, poncho liners, wool blankets, all those warming layers are going to weigh more, so you need to consider that as far as space and weight that you're going to carry. And like I said, overall, for scale, how much time are you planning to sustain for, and how many people are you going to sustain? Is it 1 bag per person? Is it a really large bag for 1 person? And then you have to consider, is that person going to tire out and fatigue more quickly if they're trying to carry the sustainment for 2, 3, 4 people? Just all things to consider. So that's kind of my rough rundown on my Gregory backpack, the Stout 35, and like I said, less than 20 pounds of gear that will get you through a plethora of situations and get you out alive on the other side. Last thing I got to say about this, guys, purchasing stuff is great, but like our guy Goretex says, you have to get out there and train. Biggest thing for this training is getting the miles in with your bag. Now, you have to remember, getting miles in practice, wearing things like your athletic shoes, your military boots, your adventure shoes is great. But if you're planning this, you're going to use this bag as my vehicle breaks down, something goes wrong, and I have to walk the rest of my way home. What do you wear to work every day? Part of the cover within those C's, Dave Canterbury's C's of Survival, part of that cover, what you're wearing, you need to consider that if you're going to have a minimal setup like this with not a ton of space and not a ton of weight, you need to be wearing clothing appropriate to the environment, because you're not going to be able to have it all staged in here. So if it's the middle of winter, like where I'm from, Buffalo, New York, and it's going to be 10, 15 degrees that day, just because you're piling into the car doesn't mean, you're going in shorts and a t-shirt because you're going to the gym. Maybe you do, and that's up to you, but at least have those layers in your vehicle. Like I said, you got a lot of space in the vehicle, throw stuff in there. If you don't use it, you don't use it, that's fine. But have it available, because if you don't have space in that bag to pack out an entire outfit to put on over what you have on because you're not planning for the elements, you're just failing yourself. So that's all I got for now, guys. I'm Josh, Survive First Contact. We'll do some follow-ups with some larger bags and larger considerations for extended time periods, extended movements, maybe some military activities with bags. So that's all I got, guys. Be safe out there. Peace.